This past week, I have not been producing videos because I tested positive for COVID-19 on Friday, and I had an extremely serious case. Now, I don't know how far it would have gone had I not gotten medical intervention, which I did. I don't make it sound like I wasn't intubated or anything, and I wasn't rushed to the ER or anything like that, but I did have to go and seek treatment, and I received what one would refer to as the kitchen sink. But before I get into all of these details, I want to start with a special thank you to Joe Rogan and legitimately, from the bottom of my heart, everyone here are extremely grateful to Joe and his support. And I'll break all this down, but I just wanted to say that right away because it really does mean a lot. But I'll explain everything that happened, and I think it's a really important story that people should know about. So on Wednesday, we did a show on Timcast IRL. It was just before the show we got word that one of our employees here had just tested positive. And we're not 100% sure with these things. I was told by a nurse that these at-home tests, they're not that good. And I was like, okay, well, look, we got to take this stuff seriously. So you may have noticed that Luke and Ian didn't do the show because, well, for safety reasons, we're going to minimize everything. But, we explained it to our guests and then said, you're basically here. It's up to you. Everybody seemed fine. We did have one person who was sick at the house, but we didn't know exactly with what, and it didn't seem like COVID. So it just seemed like a cold. Now, we definitely want to take things seriously. So, Luke is very adamant and he has all the protocols. Like, no joke. Like, Luke legit was like, here's what we're going to do. Disinfect. We're going to open up the windows, get ventilation. He did a really, really great job. But at the same time, my attitude was, we'll do this. Absolutely. And also, let's not be paranoid, because look, colds still exist. There's still illnesses that are out there. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm not going to freak out and act every single time someone gets a headache that we're going to, it's COVID, shut everything down. We can't live that way. We can't. But so we did take it seriously. I was feeling fine. And this is the crazy thing. I was like, I didn't feel sick. I was like, maybe I'm sick. I don't know. I don't think so. I just felt fine. That night, Wednesday night, I went to bed and I woke up feverish, drenched in sweat. And so I was like, well, look, the only real symptom I had after I woke up was a headache. And I was like, if I am getting sick and it is COVID, maybe it won't be that bad. But I'll just say right now, as we get into all of this, this was the worst experience I've ever had with an illness. And I genuinely believe if I did not get the treatments that I got, the kitchen sink, if you know what that is, monoclonal antibodies, I got prescribed ivermectin, I did, Z-Pak, and some emergency and some other emergency, like if you are not breathing stuff. So I truly believe the monoclonal antibodies are what pulled me out of everything. But I just wanted to make sure that was in the forefront of the video. But I'll explain. I want to go through everything. So I wake up. It's Thursday. You may have seen the post I made on this channel and my other channel saying that I had a headache for the most part, but I was going to play it safe, and that was it. I mean, I was drenched in sweat, but when I woke up, I didn't feel like I that night I slept. I woke up drenched in sweat, but I didn't feel bad. It was just like, I was like, wow, I'm sweaty. This is crazy, I didn't feel that sick. And I got a headache, and I was just like, I'm going to have to take a day off, right? And I was like, maybe I'll be fine tomorrow because I don't know how serious it's going to hit me. And here's genuinely what I thought. Look, I'm 35, so I'm nowhere near the high risk factors for COVID-19. I exercise all the time. I mean, you see us watching, we skate. I've been skateboarding for a couple decades. I've been rollerblading more. And I like, what I like about it? It's with rollerblading, it's more of a full body workout too, especially. But so I exercise all the time. I mean, we're in the half pipe. My heart rate's through the roof. My blood's flowing. I've been eating way better over the past several months, cutting out, I know, bread, sugars, garbage, just eating, meats and veggies. Got to eat more veggies for sure. And so I'm thinking like, even if this, look, I'll probably be fine. So I figure I'll take Thursday off. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. Thursday night, it escalated so quickly, the illness, from being fine Wednesday to waking up drenched in sweat in the morning of Thursday, but still not feeling sick, to Thursday night, I felt like death. I didn't feel like I was dying. No, I'm just being like, I was like, like it was excruciatingly painful. And so I'm like, take some ibuprofen and I'm going to go to bed. And hopefully when I wake up on Friday, I'm feeling a lot better. And I couldn't sleep at all. That night, it was impossible to sleep. My head started throbbing. My fever went way up. I wasn't coughing, but my body started to hurt. It was pretty bad. And I thought to myself, still not as bad as when it didn't feel as bad as when I had the flu. But let me just say that it was substantially worse than the flu. And wow. So we'll just keep going. Okay, so Friday, now it's into Friday and I'm not sleeping. I was close my eyes and then I'd wake up in agony and drenched in sweat, just feverish. So Friday, it started to get really, really bad. And I called I decided to call a local urgent care clinic. And I asked them, look, I don't know what I should do. I know I know a lot about, COVID. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I've read enough about it. And I'm like, what should I do? And it was a terrible experience. Calling this urgent care facility. It was a bad facility. That's all I can really say, I guess. They were just like, why don't you come in for some tests? And I was like, well, I just took a COVID test and it came out positive. And they were like, well, why don't you come in and we'll take some more tests? And I'm like, for what? I was like, okay, I mean, sure, absolutely, if that's what you think I need. But like, what would we do after this? Like, if the tests just come back and say, that I am positive, like, oh, well, we don't do anything. We don't prescribe anything for this. And I said, okay, so is this like a stay home and get to bed rest kind of thing? And they were like, yeah, it's a virus. And I said, okay. And now I got to keep some of the details for privacy reasons going through the story, especially the people who are sick and things like that. So I got to be a little vague, but the issue of ivermectin did come up. And as you all know, ivermectin is not approved by the FDA for treating COVID. And so when this came up, I was talking about potential. Is there anything I could take? I mean, would you recommend vitamins? Is there something I don't know? And it was expressed to me by the urgent care that their understanding was that there have been several studies showing ivermectin has helped people in dealing with COVID early on. And I said, and that's what they said. That's what I was told. And then I said, okay, is that something I should get? And they said, the FDA has not approved this for use in treating COVID. And then they just stopped. And I'm like, okay, and like, what does this mean? And so I was like, does that mean that, people are asking their doctors for it, like to opt in? And they said, no, they will not prescribe it. And I was like, okay, now here at this point, look, I've been skeptical on ivermectin. I understand the data. I understand, was it Uttar Pradesh? I think I'm getting the name wrong, in India and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I think the issue with it was that, there are studies that have been positive. There are studies that have been inconclusive. And I think that really is the simple answer. I don't tend to believe in big conspiracy or anything like that, and I still don't. And what I think people are worried about is that if everybody just assumes this is some kind of, they assume it's more effective than it is, then they might forego other potential treatments or maybe even ignore their doctors or things like that. And so my attitude is, and now still is, talk to your doctor. And I'll tell you why, because I did find a different doctor. So I'm feeling miserable. And I end up like it's getting really, really bad. It got so bad that I just started, I was talking to friends. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm getting pretty worried. I'm feeling extremely bad. I didn't have like a strong cough. I started getting a cough, and I'm like, it escalated so rapidly that I was concerned that if I didn't do something, like I was on the verge of hospitalization, of like emergency room. I'm not saying that I was at the point where I was like, oh no, I better go to the hospital. I was like, if this does get worse at this rate, by the end of the weekend, I'm probably going to be rushed to the ER because I'm not feeling it getting any better. And that was strange to me because I've gotten sick before, and I understand how these sicknesses go. In fact, I usually don't get sick. We take everything seriously here. We've got hand sanitizers. I wash my hands. Plus, you understand, we got the Chicken City, so I'm always washing up and making sure we're things are being kept clean. And we have a cleaning service that comes in because we don't want people to get sick. I mean, especially with COVID. So, you know what? I talked to some friends, and one of those friends was Joe Rogan. I know that Joe Rogan got what I think he referred to it as the kitchen sink. He got monoclonal antibodies. He got ivermectin, azithromycin, and I believe he also did NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide with a vitamin drip, and that seemed to me like a lot. But I was also, man, it was. I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to overreact. I'm not that guy. I'm not the kind of person to do NAD. Joe Rogan is very much that. He talks on his show about this stuff and about like DMT. And I don't do any of that. I don't drink. I don't smoke. No tattoos, no piercings. I'm not the kind of person who's going to, get these kinds of treatments. And but it got to that point where I talked to Joe about it. Joe encouraged me not to ignore it. Basically, look, man, you got to take this seriously. COVID is extremely serious. And he encouraged me to talk to find a better doctor, to put it simply. And so I said, okay. And I was like, I'm not calling Joe for medical advice on, what he thinks the appropriate treatments are. I think that would be silly. But I do think that he received medical advice that made him feel better, and that's what I'm interested in. And so that's what I wanted to talk to him about. And I ended up looking around, finding a private practice who I talked to them and told them how I was feeling, and they shared the concerns that I actually did too. So this is why I tell people, talk to a doctor, because I had a bad experience with one doctor, and they said, sleep it off, have a good day. And then I said, maybe I need to find a better doctor. And I did. And they said, look, if this progresses the way you're explaining it, this could be worrying, and we don't want to see you end up, in the emergency room or anything like that. So we want you to get treated. And I also think that for a lot of, I think money drives a lot of this. I don't care if they're a good doctor or a bad doctor. I think they, the one hospital was like, why don't you come in and get the tests? Because they're like, we're going to bill you. And I think these other doctors who are great and prescribed this stuff for me, were also thinking like, we're going to bill you. It's like, so I think there are two sides to that coin. So when I talked to this doctor, I actually, said, look, we've got other people who are getting sick, and we want to make sure everybody, gets treated to the best of they can get treated. And so there were a few other people, the people on the show, who got treated. And I'll say, I want to, man, this is a crazy story. So let me say a few more things. We had 4 negative tests. 4 negative tests. So when I'm thinking on Friday, I'm like, still not sure I have COVID, because it was like the symptom was a headache and fever. And I'm like, but it could be. We had some of our employees and some of our friends had tested negative, 4 people. And I said, okay, we got a cold, it must not be COVID. And then it turned out to be COVID. So then, Friday afternoon, I said, all right, well, I better be sure. And then I took a test, and it came up positive. And I was like, okay, so I have COVID, right? And so then, anyway, back. So this is, man, there's a lot to talk about. So anyway, I talked to this doctor, and they say they want to get me in immediately for these treatments, and I said, absolutely. I talked to Joe a bit more about it. Told him, like, Joe, like, they want to give me monoclonal antibodies. They want to give me ivermectin, Z-Pak. And they have some other emergency medications in the event that it goes south. And I got to be completely honest. I did not want to take the ivermectin or the Z-Pak. I genuinely believe, and I said this before when Joe got sick, that monoclonal antibodies, it's the Regeneron therapy. That's the company. It's what Donald Trump got. It is under emergency use authorization as a treatment for COVID. It's what Ron DeSantis is giving out. And I was like, this to me sounds like legit. And because I'm still trusting, and I'm still, skeptical in a lot of things, as much as everybody in the world might be, all the people on one side might be saying ivermectin, other people might be saying something else. I'm like, far be it from me to criticize the wisdom of Don Lemon. I mean, certainly if the doctor prescribed it. No, I'm kidding. So the doctor prescribed it. And so I ended up getting the treatment. And this was on Saturday. Saturday night was the most excruciatingly painful experience I've had of any illness. And I mean this I got hit the worst out of anybody that we know. And I've heard the horror stories. I've talked about them on here, with Alex Jones. Maybe it wasn't Alex Jones. It might have been. We've had guests on the show talk about how they've had they had it before, and it was a very, very bad experience, and it was terrifying, and they went to the hospital and stuff like that. I don't think that was Jones though. But so I got it really, really, really bad, to the point where I was like, I will do anything, please help. So anyway, I got the treatment. I ended up receiving immediately monoclonal antibodies, NAD. That's nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. It's like a B vitamin derivative. And I ended up getting a vitamin drip and some painkillers. That night, I was delirious. I was hallucinating. I hadn't slept properly in days. I hadn't eaten in days. I had tried eating soup. I was doing like emergency, the vitamin drink. And so it was bad. And I was struggling to breathe. I was, and I was like, if this treatment didn't work, I'm in serious, serious trouble. At 4 a.m., that was it. I stood up, and I wasn't sick. I mean, I was sick, but I was just like, what just happened? All of a sudden, I just felt better. The pain started to go off in waves. My balance was back. I was breathing deeply, and I was just like, wow. And I sat down, started binge watching House MD, because I've been watching that for the past several days. And then I was just like, I feel better. I feel way better. At this point, I had not taken ivermectin, just the monoclonal antibodies, the NAD, and the vitamins. And I think those all played a significant role. Now, I will stress, in order to get these treatments, I called a doctor. We did a health screening. They explained to me the risk factors. When I was getting the treatment, they checked my lungs. They said my lungs were bad, and but not bad enough that I couldn't get it. I had moderate symptoms, but eligible for the therapy, and it's a good thing I got in when I did. And then Sunday, I was feeling better. I was feeling better, still sick, but feeling better. And so I decided that I still needed some time to recover, and obviously we can't do the shows and stuff like that until everybody is starting to feel better. So I think we should have everything back to normal starting today. But I will say something else. So I talked to my doctor again, saying, hey, look, I feel fantastic. Like, do I really need to take the Z-Pak and the ivermectin? Because I kind of don't want to. And they said, yes, you have to. And I said, okay, but now the media is going to start claiming I'm taking horse dewormer or something. I don't want people to think that I'm certainly not encouraging anything. And I was hesitant to even do this because I know that, look, I can come out and just lie and say I never got it. but I think it's important to know exactly what's out there that helped me get better. And they told me I have to take it. They were concerned about. I was told that there are people who it comes in waves, right? People will get sick with COVID, start feeling better, and then say, "Hey, I'm all good," and then a couple of days later, bam, get hit again. And they were like, "You need to finish off the entire treatment." And I said, okay. So I've been taking, so I am now doing the full, kitchen sink regimen. I've done we did a follow-up NAD, okay, again, it's nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, adenine, I think I'm pronouncing it right, follow-up and vitamin drip. And I really do think that helped. All I can say is that, I talked to a doctor about it, and they were the ones who said, these are the treatments. Now, here's what you got to understand. This therapy, the monoclonal antibodies, this is what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida for people. And when I got sick and experiencing how bad it was, and then when I got this treatment, I realized how amazing Ron DeSantis is. I know, I've talked about him doing a good job before, but this is an expensive treatment. And they've been providing it to regular people who are getting sick, and experiencing how much better I felt so quickly from it. I'm impressed that there is a governor who is prioritizing regular working people to this degree that they would receive this. Because I'm going to tell you something. I talked to Joe, and he was like, you got to get better, man. You can't ignore it. You got to find a doctor. Here's the therapy I got. I felt better. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find this. Like, I'm going to call a doctor. I'm going to talk to him about these things. And I'll just say, Joe, I have no words for the gratitude that I feel to Joe for his support, because not only that, but after I called him back and said, we're getting therapy, he was like, I'm going to take care of it for you. And I was just like, you sure? He's like, bro. He's like, get better, man. This is something very, very serious. I think it's absolutely disgusting. What the media did. We talked about it a lot on IRL. What the media said about him, what CNN, how they lied about it. Now, it was one thing for sure when I'm like, they're lying about Joe. Like, he went to a doctor. I experienced it firsthand. I called a doctor, and I'm like, do I really got to do ivermectin and Z-Pak? And they're like, we're going to prescribe you medication and trust us. And I said, okay. And then even then, I still said, do you still think I need to take this? I don't want to be, isn't it silly? Why are we in this position where I have to say anything like that? I should just be like, thanks, doc. Thanks for the advice. YouTube could ban me for telling you. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely completely bonkers. But I don't want to say, I'm not going to speak too much about the other people here, because a lot of people got sick, and we did a full windows open, disinfecting, cleaning out. Employees were told not to come back in because we don't want to get anybody sick. And again, man, let me get into some of the very, very important details about what all of this means. For one, again, man, Joe, you are a lifesaver. You are a great guy, and I am eternally grateful. No joke. This is, just. He didn't give me medical advice other than to find a doctor who's going to talk to me seriously about what's going on and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of funny, that like he has like, talk to a doctor, man. You got to take it seriously, dude. And I'm like, okay, because my alternative was like, well, I called the urgent care and they said I'd be fine and just to sleep it off. And but I was talking to friends about it. I'm like, hey, did you get this? How did you feel? And I know Joe went through it. So here's some of the very important things about what we were doing. We had an event on Saturday. I don't think it had anything to do with the event. I don't think the employee who got sick, this was on Wednesday. And so, and this individual wasn't anywhere near the event, didn't have anything to do with the event. And so we think that's how it ended up in the house, and it happened quick. So, I got sick quick. But the other thing too is, for the event we did, it wasn't shoulder to shoulder. We had an outdoor area, so it was a decently ventilated place. it was it was packed, but like not shoulder to shoulder. You know, people were easily able to walk around and move around. But, you know, look, these things happen. We were obviously taking it seriously, as I always do. I'm not this like, look at my attitude even towards ivermectin and stuff like that. I'm not, you know, on one side of the issue about this. Like, no, I was like, we want to take this seriously, of course, but we can't live this way. We can't hide. You know, we warn people. People understand the risks. We looked out for people who are sick and things like that, and we didn't see anything like that. But back at, you know, at work, someone ended up coming in, and then later when they got sick, they tested positive, and that was it. You know, it hit the castle, and this is why it's so important to understand the severity of COVID. Is that it's novel. Like, it hit a lot of people real quick. Now here's where it gets screwed up. I said, okay, you know, well, we need tests. 4 people who were sick tested negative. And I said, we must have caught a cold. And as it turns out, it was worse than that. So here's what I did learn. We've got employees here who are vaccinated and unvaccinated. There's 2 interesting things I can say. We've had a breakthrough case. One of our vaccinated employees ended up getting sick. Mild to moderate symptoms. Nothing too bad. I think they'll be fine. We have another pair of employees who actually are in a relationship and live together. One vaccinated, one not. The vaccinated employee never got sick. Surprise, surprise. So, you know, for me, I'm kind of like, the plural of anecdote is not data. When I see somebody who, you know, who's vaccinated and gets sick, I'm like, well, when did they get vaccinated? Turns out a long time ago. And so I'm like, okay. And then what do we have now? Well, the employee who was vaccinated and didn't get sick got it 3 months ago. I'm not advising you to do anything. Just because a doctor prescribed me stuff doesn't mean you should do it. The stuff that I got, I was screened for. Some people actually got rejected for, and that's why I say it's so important to talk to a doctor before, talk to a doctor before getting any treatment. And if you're having a bad doctor, this is exactly as I said it. You know, I was like, if you call your doctor and they give you and they don't give you a good enough answer, or you're concerned, get a second opinion. Literally what I did. And the second opinion was like, we want to give you this full treatment because you sound really bad. Now, as part of the screening, they took all my information down, but they did a lung check because there are parameters. And they said not only were my lungs healthy enough for the treatment, but that they were bad enough to where they thought I really needed it. And so from that, I got the Regeneron monoclonal antibody treatment or whatever. I think it's extremely important that people understand all of this stuff, that you understand that there are these therapies. For me, it seems to have worked out really well because I can only explain it as, you know, I know when Joe said he got sick, he said the first day sucked. I'm like, sucked is not how I felt. I was going, and I feel like if I didn't get the monoclonal antibodies, I probably would have had to go on the ER instead of just going and getting, you know, this treatment. So I'm grateful to the doctors and the nurses. And as much as I, you know, didn't want to be doing the Z-Pak ivermectin stuff, I'm going to follow the instructions of my doctor, as I think people should all follow the instructions of their doctors. And, you know, I'll say this too. I didn't ask the doctor for anything. It's not like I called Joe and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to call the doctor and ask them to give me identical stuff. I didn't. I said, you know, what should I do? Because I don't like seeding ideas in people's minds. You know what I mean? I don't like calling the doctor and then being like, hey, what about this treatment? Would that be right for me? And then the doctor just says, sure. No. I want to know what the doctor's true and honest opinion was. And, you know, they prescribed this stuff to me. As I stated, I would not want to be taking ivermectin. Now, we do have some other people here who had prescription for ivermectin, and that I don't want to give away too many private. I don't want to give away too many details for other people, but I can just say that what made me feel better I think, was the monoclonal antibodies. And I think that's really what did it. I think that was true for Joe. I don't know about anything else. I can't speak for him, but I think that's what did it for me. So we are not having any guests on IRL. It's going to be probably just me, Luke, Ian, Lydia for the next few days. But we're going to then get everyone to test negative. And then once we do, resume things back to normal. We've already disinfected twice, opened up all the windows. No one's been here. We only the people who are quarantined here are quarantined here, and so I think things are going to get back to normal. Here's what I'll say about the mandates. I think it proved. I think a lot of this just makes me feel like I was right the whole time. Negative testing did nothing. We were like, okay, we got people getting sick. Let's do a bunch of tests. And then we're negative. And so I'm like, okay, we're good. Okay, the negative test. Thank you very much. If we ignored that and just said, let's treat it like COVID, maybe we could have mitigated this a bit better. I think the mandates just won't do anything. You know, if people are going to get sick and they bring it, it happens. So I don't know what else to say, I guess, other than I've got the prescription remaining from my doctor that I'll be taking, and just think it's important people know about it. I'm all fine, hopefully, and I look forward to being accused of all of the media lying about me and my prescriptions and my medication. I got a prescription. I got a bag right here with prescriptions from a doctor. Like, let me see if I can. There's a prescription bottle. Like, yeah, okay. Let me. I don't want to have any private details on it, but you know, there's a prescription bottle. I don't want a prescription bottle there. So, yeah. All right, I'll leave it there. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to work. Next segment will be up at 1 p.m. Man, we got so much news. We got the Rittenhouse trial. We got New Jersey's hanging on the wire. The governorship race. We got Virginia. Wow, Youngkin. I can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it, but wow. So, thanks for listening. We'll see how. Maybe the media likes to ignore me, and hopefully they continue to do so. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all at 1 p.m.